Hi, I'm Jessica Sellers, and my presentation is over the 1999 Bridge Creek F5 tornado. It was actually the last F5 tornado they used the old Fujita scale with. Where was this disaster located? The tornado tracked for nearly an hour and a half along a 38-mile path from Chickasaw through South Oklahoma City and the suburbs of Bridge Creek, Newcastle, Moore, Midwest City, and Dell City. Reports suggest that most of the F5 damage occurred in Bridge Creek and Moore, hence the name of the tornado, the Bridge Creek tornado. This dangerous storm barely missed the most populated parts of Oklahoma City. What agencies responded? Local and state authorities were all dispatched, as well as FEMA and Red Cross volunteers. Because the entire outbreak produced 141 confirmed tornadoes in such a small area, the agencies were very, very thinly spread. Fire and rescue, ambulance service, hospital volunteers, as well as several volunteers who had come from just different towns. Towns outside the area were called in to help in the efforts, the recovery and disaster and all that kind of stuff, and triage. The cost of this disaster, from the start of the path to the end, the F5 tornado caused $1.1 billion in damage along that 38-mile stretch. And up until the Joplin tornado, this was the costliest tornado ever recorded. And many of the homes that were destroyed were mobile homes. But unlike you would expect, there were not as many deaths with this tornado because the warning systems actually worked very well. Morbidity and mortality. Before we realize the impact of the morbidity or mortality of this tornado, you have to understand the velocity of the wind speeds taken just before 7 p.m. as the Bridge Creek tornado was going through Bridge Creek and heading towards Oklahoma City metro area. They were originally calibrated at 318 miles per hour. Later they were reduced to about 301 plus or give 20 miles an hour. And those wind speeds were taken at a higher velocity than ground level. They said that they were probably a little less, but not much. And that was the fastest wind speeds ever recorded by a Doppler radar. So clearly there should have been several fatalities with this tornado considering the damage it did. But a total of 48 people died in the entire outbreak in Oklahoma, through those 3 days. And 36 of the 48 fatalities occurred during the Bridge Creek portion of the tornado, the one tornado alone. The death toll would have likely been higher, clearly, if it wasn't for the success of the early warning system. All of the local news agencies and the media, like I'll talk about later, had helicopters in the air. They had several connections all throughout the state. They had early warning systems that closed down TV and broadcasting on everybody, just to let everybody know what was going on. Who was impacted? This is what I'd like to focus on because several people along the line of this tornado were impacted severely. Some losing their entire homes, never to be seen again, literally, because they were mobile homes. They got thrown to different parts of the area. Some homes were obliterated to left a foundation, and they would never see some of their rooms ever again. And I want to focus on this because had the tornado kept going on its original path and stayed on the ground, much more damage would have been taken in Oklahoma City's most populated areas. And this is where that TV show, If It Happened Tomorrow, comes in. I think one of the first episodes was the situation where a massive F5 tornado hits Oklahoma City, and they talked about how it would completely destroy life there as they knew it if it hit the metro area, which was right where this F5 tornado was heading. It literally almost made that come true. I mean, so many buildings, workers in those buildings range from like 2,500 to 3,000 people a piece. I mean, if it would have hit midday in that office building, or even at night in those office buildings, it would have been devastating. The death tolls and costs would have multiplied several times and would have far exceeded any reports or efforts for rescue and recovery. It would have been a national disaster. They would have had to fund a National Guard and everybody they could get to come help all these people affected by it. The ethical dilemma that was involved in this tornado was the storm chasing. It's a major ethical dilemma when it involves amateurs looking for a thrill, because it is thrilling to see those tornadoes in person, but it gets you a lot closer to the danger than any amateur ever needs to be. I read a story online where this particular tornado took this man's wife right out of his hands in front of him because they had gotten too close to the tornado and couldn't outrun it. They had to actually get out and lie under an overpass, and they didn't really calculate the fact that this tornado was an F5 and it just blew the overpass out of the water and took his wife away from him, and he said he would never storm chase again. And storm chasing is best left to the professionals who have extensive training and technology to gather